Let's start with a word of prayer. Dear God, I ask you that we have another opportunity now to discuss with each other. I ask you again for your guidance, for your Holy Spirit. Please be with us. Please help us in this discussion, that it might be beneficial for all of us and that it might bring further clarity. I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, feel free to ask any question or give any comment.
Feel free to raise your hands if you have questions or to unmute.
Okay. Unmute. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, so I just have a question on the line of the line I think you called it the line of Jesus Christ as the priest, right? So the initial line it was departing at 1989 and then ending at 2021. That is the line of Jesus Christ as a priest, as we understand it. All right. And then I think you ended up extending this line to the second coming. So I didn't quite understand how you did that, because my understanding is that that line of Christ as priest, or rather, even if we take Christ out and we use the line of the priest only goes from 1989 and ends in 2021. Past 2021, we don't have the line of the priest. So if you can kindly clarify, I didn't understand how you extrapolated it to go to the second advent. My second question will be on you've shown us several lines, and among the lines that you've shown us is the line of the certification, right? You know, January 6th, 2021, January, and I think that is the premise for you to get to January 6th, 2025. So in naming waymarks, I just wanted to get a clarification if we already use the established waymarks. Once you have established waymark, then you can obviously come up with a date when a specific event comes. All in naming waymarks, for example, if it's about the line of Islam, the hard waymark has to be on the established date like 9/11. All are we allowed to come up with another date in an attempt to name waymarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your questions. Regarding the line of Jesus the priest, yes, it is clear that the line of the priests end in 2021, but Jesus is representing the priests and the 144,000, because the 144,000 are the first fruits. They have the same experience as Jesus. He plays two roles as well as we do. We are the priests and we are the 144,000 at the same time. So our line as priests stopped in 2021, but our line as 144,000 continued. We are still on a line. So Jesus' ministry did not stop in 2021. But his ministry continued. He did not only one temple cleansing, but two temple cleansings. So what do we do with the events that happened after 2021? I think we have to bring them on our line as well. And in this case, it is the line of the 144,000. So the priest and the 144,000 is combined in us, and it is combined in Jesus himself. And therefore, I extended the line I combined both lines, the line of the priest and the line of the 144,000, which is our experience and which is also Jesus' experience. And regarding your second question, the certification, I share my other line. Second. So I'm using X-28, the third ship, which is another ship of Alexandria, as a reference. I first tried to place those waymarks, those cities on a line. I didn't do it now in this study today, so it may not make too much sense. But you can go back to the study where I explained why I have put Melita, Syracuse, Regium, and Puteoli on those lines. And what we see from the study is that in 2001 at Syracuse, we have same symbols like a volcano, like two rivers, like the tarrying, same symbols in 2001 as we have at the waymark of Puteoli, which I would say is the Sanelo waymark. We have also a volcano, we have sulfurous, we have brimstone, which is a symbol for Islam in Revelation 9. We have Paul tarrying, we have the two seas that meet. So I'm connecting those two waymarks. And in between, we have Regium, which is 2021. The word Regium means breach. And I have explained in those recent studies that I would see it as the breach that the institution received. The ship received breaches. It was almost to shipwreck, but democracy was strong enough to hold. The ship still went through, it continued to survive until final shipwreck at the next waymark when we combine it with X-27. So this is the line where I base it on. And then we see in 2001, if we look at the year, we see like Michael Moore portrayed it, we see January 6th and we see the East Wind attack. So in 2021, we have January 6th, democracy almost overturned, but not because they did certify the rightfully elected president, Joe Biden. But then in 2025, we have the overturning of democracy when they certified a dictator into office after a controversial election as we had it in the 2000 election, which is coming out now to the surface step by step. So this is my reasoning.
Just a quick follow-up question to your prior answer. I do see the point that after 2021, the priest Christ continues his mission. I mean, like after the first temple cleansing. My understanding is, or rather how we construct waymarks, is that when you are studying the line of Jesus Christ as a priest, there will be an independent line with the waymark that might not be the same with when Christ, all the priests are playing the symbol or all the role of the 144,000. I think that is why, like, we have 5 lines. We have the line of the priest as an independent line, and then we have the line of the 144,000, and the waymarks between the two lines might not be necessarily the same. So now, if you pick up from the last line of like the last line of the priest and extend that to give you an experience of the 144,000, is that going to be necessarily accurate? Because we have instances where the waymarks are different. A follow-up question on the same about the triumphant entry of Christ to Jerusalem. You've marked that as the Sunday law, all right?
Yes.
I'm just wondering if the reason why you've marked it as Sunday law is because that is where we have the start of the loud cry. Because I think there is a quote where Ellen White is comparing the midnight cry and the triumphant entry of Christ to Jerusalem. So I've always understood the triumphant entry to be the loud cry, which you've marked as the second temple cleansing. If you can also explain that, thank you.
Yes, it depends on the line that the whole story has different levels. So it depends on the line on the story that you are telling. And I believe we cannot make out of Jesus himself two lines because he is one person. But he, as one person, has a twofold role as well as we have. We have a twofold role as priests and as 144,000. So I think we can make one line out of those two concepts, the concept of the priest and the 144,000. And regarding the triumphal entry, I know that Ellen White is comparing to the so regarding the triumphal entry, I know that Ellen White is comparing it to, I think, August 15, 1844 to Exeter. But I think it does not contradict each other because it's a different level, that it's a different line. So in this line, you can make your own line. You can try to place the triumphal entry at the loud cry, but then you should be able to also place all those other events correctly. So I think it can only be placed that way because where would you place the second temple cleansing then? Because this also has clear characteristics for the loud cry. So yeah, this is my suggestion. This is how I would understand it. And I think we have to be careful to not mix up those different lines.
William, is that okay?
I'm getting it, but I mean, I thought the priests are also the same people, but we anyway make two independent lines about them.
Okay, perhaps maybe that's a question which may be going to the food for thought. Then we go to the next questions, unless, Elena, you want to say something to that. Otherwise, we could
the next question, I think.
Okay. So just according to how the hands are raised, if everyone can see, I think it's Sabina, Jeffrey, Jerome, Titus, Snyder.
Thank you. Mine is, I want some clarification, and also I have a question. So based on January 6, which is the Sunday law, so what we are marking there is Kamara. So the scene, I wanted to know the scene of the institution that you have marked at January 6. Is it this Kamara certifying Trump as a dictator? That is what will brought the scourge of that institution. That's one. Two,
Can
we
I answer
talked
that?
about.
Can I answer
Okay.
first? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe that this is the bipartisan sin against democracy, because when we compare it with 1850, the southern states, they were pro-slavery, so they were bad from the beginning. It's like the Republicans, they did sin from the beginning and are continuing to sin. But the Democrats or the northern states, they should have saved the glorious land, the principles that make the land glorious. They should have fought or fight for it. So they didn't anymore when they certified a dictator into office with knowing that there were problems in the election. And because those concerns that several people brought before Kamala Harris in November still, they were serious. But she did not do anything against it. She did not call for investigation, and there was no objection. So she did, because of course she knew when she did bring any concern, there would be possibly a civil war, and because the Trump supporters would never have accepted it, that they would again turn the election to the Democrats. So I think this is the sin that the Democrats committed, to certify without call for investigation, without any objection, while knowing what kind of person he is, that he is an extremist that is destroying the Constitution and democracy. So yes, I believe this is the big sin, because it's most fundamental to democracy, and it goes hand in hand with equality. But in this case, it's the sin of the institution, not of the individuals. And this is what, in my understanding, is bringing shipwreck to the institution. So you had a second question?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So the first presentation, you talked about the woman being the king of the north and the armies, and you said that the Islam or the east wind rather is the one that is coaching the armies, not the woman, if I got you correct, the armies. So my question is, when we talk about the armies, so what are we referring to? Is it the seventh kingdom or the sixth kingdom?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question and an important one, and I don't have fully answers to it. I think also in general the movement is in this process now to understand who is what is the sixth, what is the seventh. Also, Elder Pominda did presentations now regarding the King of the North and the woman. So I think we are still in this process to understand it, and I don't have full answers on it. Okay, who's next, or do you have another question?
Okay, the third question, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
In 2016, that we marked the part of Ipsos, And we see Hillary Clinton, I think from the third diadochi, we marked, we have Antigonus, which we said is Hillary Clinton, and you have the other prayers which we represented Trump. And we marked as Antigonus having one eye, and we said that Antigonus lost that eye, which when you see that America was tested on the issue of gender and they failed, then we said that that was the last hope for America, for having them, they were required to choose a female president. Now, how can we harmonize with that thought with 2025, as you said that Kamala won the election, not Trump, knowing that now America didn't have any chance of, like, America could not choose a female president. You got my question?
I think so, yes. Yeah, we said in the movement, a woman can never win the election. So I think this is true because the system is so corrupted that they will never let a woman into power. But we saw that Hillary Clinton received the majority of the popular vote. So it is not that the majority of the people would not vote for her. They did in reality. It was, of course, it was about 50-50. It was a small margin, but she won the popular vote. But the system, like the Electoral College and all of that, did not allow it to happen. Also, there was Russian interference. There was already voter suppressions and many things in the background that were going on that did not allow it for her to become president. So as I said, in 1850, the majority voted against slavery. But anyway, it was a test of racism. So people are sexist. Even the Democrats are sexist. We saw the positive masculinity, which is not positive. So for me, it's not the test to vote either for a man or for a woman. This is not the test. The test is to really have incorporated radical feminism in our lives. And even if people vote for the Democrats and for the women, they can fail the test. So yeah, this is, yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. The last one. We talked about 90 as the one that we used to establish 9/11 as an harbinger for cross of probation. And I see as the language in 90 is clearly speaking about cross of probation. So could you also see 9/11 as an harbinger of cross of probation?
Yes, I believe too that the quote clearly speaks about the close of probation and that we have this number 90/11, and we have New York, we have the towers, we have the burning buildings, everything what really is pointing to what happened at 9/11. So when Ellen White speaks about close of probation, but using exactly the same language, then I believe that it is pointing to close of probation too. But I think, for example, Ellen White does not speak about Islam. She just speaks about destruction. So I think in order to be sure that East Wind will attack at close of probation, we need other lines, because our rule is to put line upon line, story upon story together to confirm a thing. So only to use this quote of 90/11 for me is not enough, even though I see that she is speaking about close probation, and I would not deny that it's not pointing to it and that we will not see an attack by east wind. So, but to be sure to establish it, I think we need more lines to confirm it. And at the same time, it does not say that we won't see it at the Sunday law as well, in addition to it. And regarding the harbinger, as I said, the concept of the harbinger we have from the line of the Magi. Elder Tess and Elder Pominder used the line of the Magi to explain the harbinger. So we have to examine the line of the Magi and see where the harbinger really on that line points us to. So I really can imagine that we will see east wind at the close of probation, but additionally, I really believe, based on those studies I have presented, that we will see it as well as at the Sunday low waymark. I don't know who was next.
Next is Jeffrey.
Hi, Elena, and happy Sabbath, everyone. Yeah, so first of all, thank you for the study. I personally think you have like strong arguments and a strong case. I have a question about okay, this is about the comparison between 2001 and 2025. So you talked about the election and the outcome in 2001, and then the scourge or punishment. And my question was about what you termed as the president needing a national crisis. And it goes back to the documentary where I think even Michael Moore mentions that after the election, the ratings for the president were really bad. And then this crisis comes up. So my question is about the punishment, because when you talk about it as when you bring the aspect of there being bad ratings, then the punishment comes, and then things get better for them because they're able to the country is able to rally around them, and they're able to basically implement their agenda. So it's just about, the question is just about the punishment, and can it also be considered because it looks like a blessing in a way for them. So I know some people go to the extreme in terms of conspiracy theories, and they say, okay, since Bush rating was bad, they go ahead and even say, okay, he came up with this plan and manufactured it was all an in-house job, 9/11. But yeah, so the question was basically, I hope you've understood the question, yeah.
Yeah. Can you bring the punchline again from your question?
Oh yeah, the question is about the punishment. Is it like in a blessing for a way for the current president in power? Because as you said, like the ratings are bad after the election, and this event changes the situation for them, things become better.
Yeah, okay. Yes, yeah, it's a good question. It's good to think about. I'm not sure if I can really answer it. Regarding the approval ratings, I brought in my past studies a quote from the book How Democracies Die, and there they say that authoritarian who is in the beginning to start to be authoritarian, he always needs a national crisis. It's a war or a terrorist attack or something in this regard. So it was like Hitler needed it, and we saw it in 2001, and it could look as a blessing for Bush, but that's connected to the question for which part of the country is Islam a scourge? Is it for the 7th or for the 6th? And I'm still not fully able to answer this question. As I said, also in the movement, I think we are in the process of understanding it. So I would say, very simply said, that it is a scourge against the nation. It's the army of Rome, which is the USA. Be it the 6th or the 7th, we can discuss about it, but it's the nation that is scourged. And I don't think if it was, when we look at Bush, 9/11 was a blessing for him in terms of his power, his rise in power, of gathering the nation under the flag, passing the Patriot Act, all of this. But at the same time, it was a scourge for the whole nation. The world changed, and it did not change to the better. So, yeah, I think I'm not able to answer it fully, but I think a similar thing will happen with Trump. Also, the war on terrorism, which began after 9/11, costs a huge amount of money, which is bad for the economy. It costs lives of the troops, and I think in total, it is not a blessing for the nation of the USA.
Okay, thank you.
Jerome?
Okay, this is Sandra. Yeah, this is Sandra speaking, not Jerome. My laptop shut down. I have a question. I'm taking you back to the studies you did on Islam. And if I remember very well, you have compared and contrasted this reformist movement for the Islamic Caliphate, and I think you stress out the rise. You compare and contrasted. We are standing on true equality. They're standing on, I think that is patriarchy. You also looked at the formalization. They have a formalization. We do have a formalization. I think everything was really paralleling with that line. And then my question is, when you traced out these studies today, I'm looking at if Islam will strike at the Sunday law. I can see there's a prediction there. And my question is, which brand? Because I see more in the other recent studies, the previous studies, you place much effort in the Islamic ISIS. Okay. So am I looking at the Islamic Caliphate still striking back at the Sunday law, or and then when you go back to 2023, we see the mass striking. I think that was on October 7th. Yeah. I don't know, do we see a parallel of histories of other caliphates striking in 2024? Like, do we have other witnesses to prove that we see the caliphate, ISIS caliphate striking in 2024, and then in 2025, do we see still more of that striking?
Yes, I believe it is ISIS or ISIS-K. It is at least this ideology that is connected to ISIS, and I think it is not Hamas, because the line, if you trace the line back to 1989 and see all at every waymark, we see how this develops It is the stream that is going, or the thread that is going through all of these waymarks. And this is the development of this ideology from Al-Qaeda to ISIS. And Hamas in 2023, or also the Taliban, what happens there is helping for the development of ISIS. There is an article that I shared in my recent studies that said that ISIS is exploiting the situation in Gaza. They were exploiting the situation in Afghanistan, but they are the threat. They are calling for global jihad against the USA, not Hamas. So yeah, in my studies from last year, in this 5-part study, I examined the ideology, where it came from, what they are believing, how it developed, and I really believe that this is exactly representing the wild ass Ishmael, who is against everyone and everyone against him, and who is not in any relationship with any other country, not an ally to Iran like Hamas would be, or to Russia or any other country, but who is on its own and really hating everybody else. So I hope that makes sense.
Okay, you've just reminded me, like when you look at the Islamic Caliphate that you talked about, the ideology, if you come to the waymark of the Sunday Law, according to your studies, it's 2025, are we looking at still the Islamic ideologies? Like, do we some individuals performing these ideologies at the Sunday Law waymark?
Yes, I think so. I have no idea how the attack will look like. It could be also several attacks. There's an article of Foreign Affairs which is called the terrorism lights are blinking red again. We are in the run-up to 9/11, and they describe that the threat is twofold. It's those lone wolf people who are just pledging allegiance to ISIS, who radicalized online, but who are not sent directly by ISIS, who just, they feel it as being their mission, but they are not, it's not organized by ISIS. So it could be those. So we cannot say when they attacked, we cannot say it is ISIS. We can only say it is someone who had ISIS ideology. That's what I mean when I say ISIS ideology. And on the other hand, this article said, based on what the FBI director said last year, it could be orchestrated attacks orchestrated by the network and financed by the network of ISIS, or especially ISIS-K, because they are more powerful, which is the Afghan branch of ISIS. And then, of course, it's true, the ISIS ideology, but it's organized, it's officially by ISIS. So there are twofold threats, I believe.
Okay, thank you. I have another question, the third question, please. Like I think you traced out 2019. We see the Islamic Caliphate being restrained. We see the death of, I think, al-Bakr Abu Baghdadi. Yeah. How does that strengthen the Islamism?
Yeah, they are territorially weakened, but they are in underground. They are in prisons and camps. They are spreading their ideology online through social media, and this did not stop in this time period. So always when a leader of them gets killed, in the past, many leaders already got killed by the US, they use it as their narrative to say, see, we have to take revenge. They are our enemies. They have proven that they are our enemies. We have to justify, to revenge it and to bring justice. So this strengthens them in their hatred and their zeal to continue their war, which is in their mind a holy war. So it does not weaken them, it strengthens them to gather together again, putting all their power together and do something.
Okay, thank you. We have other people that want to ask questions because we have quite many.
Hello, Elena.
Hello.
This is Jerome.
Hello.
Yeah, the lines are just glowing in my eyes. I'm just amazed at how they're constructed. So I have more or less my questions have been answered. I just had something little to add on or to ask. So when I saw you tracing the line of Christ as a priest. So when I was seeing at the waymark, the triumphal entry, you combined a lot of things together. You combined layers and layers and layers. So you talked about Mary, if I'm right, and then you talked about Christ also. Am I right? Talked about Mary anointing Christ.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my thought was, is it a bundle of event, the way you're seeing it, or is it a progressive event that you're seeing it's culminating into something, the death, into Christ entering as the King? Because the way I was seeing it, I might be very wrong. By putting Mary and everything all smashed together at the same point in time, are you showing different perspective of the same way, Mark? Or are you seeing a build up to that same way, Mark? So that was one of the thought I was having. And then, when we see that same story again, we see Christ riding on a wild ass to go to Jerusalem. And then when you compare 9/11, 2000 and 2001, and 2024 and 2025, it's a cause and effect, if I'm right. Something happens and then there's a retaliation back, but then the story there is merged together. So please give me some detail elaboration on that, please.
Okay, first on the triumphal entry. I believe in between 2021 and 2025, there are also those small waymarks because there are a lot of events happening. When we read Desire of Ages, what Jesus is experiencing, there's also between the first temple cleansing and the triumphal entry, one very important waymark which is the resurrection of Lazarus. And I would place it as at Exeter because the resurrection, special resurrection here is also an Exeter waymark at the very end. Therefore, the resurrection of Lazarus, which is in between first temple cleansing and triumphal entry, I would also place here at Exeter. I don't know how to explain it, what in regards to our experience. That's why I have not put it on this line yet. I think it's we should continue to study and understand what it means for us. And then the next event is Mary anointing Jesus. It's the feast at Simon's house. So between 2024 Exeter and 2025, the Sunday Law Waymark, how I would see it, we have the resurrection of Lazarus and then Mary anointing Jesus, which belongs together. It is one story. And then we have Jesus riding on the wild ass to Jerusalem. So it's a consecutive story, one event following directly after the other event. That means when we have not yet seen the wild ass at the Sunday Law. It means it is still future. I would expect it, if my study is right, in the next months to come before this year ends. So we are in the period shortly before Jesus is riding into Jerusalem, which means it's the period when they are gathering together, meeting in Simon's house, and where Mary is anointing Jesus, preparing him for everything that comes. So I think it is at this waymark, but it is shortly before Jesus is riding on the wild ass into the city.
So are we seeing it as a compact event, like the way they say their waymarks are kind of spreading all through, and the very big behemoths. When you are from afar, you see them as very tiny pinpoints, but now when you zoom in close to it, it expands and it's very big. Is that how we are seeing that?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, fine. This is Sandra. Another question pop up in my mind when you were speaking about when you're looking at the Sunday law, when you turn to July 18th, we really see the role of the Republican Party and electing this king into power. And we could see also the rise of the Seventh Kingdom. If I remember clearly, you said that if we are considering the Sunday law studies, we shouldn't press out, we shouldn't focus on all the one Republican Party, like we should focus on we're looking at the Sunday law, it's a worldwide event. So I'm asking if you traced out, I think there are studies Elder Pamenda has done about the Republican branch must be won, and that's
Oh, I cannot hear you anymore.
Yeah, I think we've lost the group over there.
Okay.
Anyway, as they either recollect or we move to the next people, I just request that we, because of time and because there's a number of us who want to ask questions, if we can keep the questions to the point as much as possible, brief and clear. Group with Jerome, are you back?
Hello.
Okay, let's proceed. Did I hear somebody?
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to ask a question.
No,
My name is Simon.
there's a line of people who've raised their hands. So please raise your hand and then we'll come to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, please. Just raise your hand. There's a number of people. I see Jerome are back, the group. I would just ask them to please summarize their questions so that we can then go to the next people because we have limited time and lots of questions. I would just give them an opportunity to finish up before we go to the next people.
I would like to say sorry. We just had a poor network connection. Okay, I was asking a question about when you go back to the studies Elder Pamenda did about the Republican Party playing a role in enacting executive president that will Palestine a Sunday law. So like you said in your studies today, you only don't see the Republican Party doing a role, but you must see it's a worldwide phenomena that is happening. Like how can you try to clarify more? Like I can see it making more sense. Like how do we see it's a phenomena? Like yeah, it's a worldwide phenomena happening because I'm also trying to consider the role of the Republican Party.
Yes, no, they definitely play a role. I think they are the Sunday law movement, if that's the correct definition now. So we knew at the Sunday law, the Republican Party must have the power. It must be a Republican president, and also those other branches must be Republican. So they definitely play the role of in the end times. But the Democrats, they helped them to get into power. They did not prevent it. They did not fight against it anymore. They compromised for the sake of the union. So definitely the Sunday law, if we take it as a literal law, it is brought by the Republicans, not by the Democrats. So they play a role. And in July, Trump was crowned as the king of the party, but not yet of the full country. And he had not yet the power to pass any law. And the speaking of a nation is passing laws. And this happened on January 20. So this is, in my mind, when what we expected for the Sunday law to happen then really happened. The transfer of power was not yet in July, even though everything was prepared, even though the king was seen and all the evil things, the masculinity, all of this was on full display. It had not yet the power to reign over the country, but it had since January.
Okay, thank you, Elena. I really appreciate it.
Thank you too.
Yeah, Titus, please.
Okay, yeah. So thank you so much for the opportunity. So thank you so much for the study, and I have two questions. The first one is, before 2018, our lines were not refined and more did not have integrity. Like, yes, they had integrity, but they were not refined. And then Elder Paminda came and showed us that we need to study line upon line. And one of the things Elder Paminda said was that we become intellectually honest in reading inspiration, and in this case, inspiration was Ellen White, and we just use the structure that Ellen White gave us. For example, in our line, the line of 144,000, the Sunday law, the close of probation, the second advent, all of them have been given by Ellen White. And then we use the Ellen White to establish 1989 by going to Daniel chapter 11, verse 40. And 2001, we used the maybe 1844, like we just use line upon line. So my first question would be, using line upon line and going by the writings of Ellen White and the structure that's given us in inspiration, do we see Islam at the Sunday law? And the reason why I said that was because for me, one classic example that talks about the Sunday law is Revelation 18. And in Revelation 18, we are told that we have this institution, Babylon, under the Sunday law, its sins are full. But Ellen White would say, but the judgment doesn't take place at that time. It's posted until the close of probation. And then the second line, the second point to that question is, if we go to the first witness of, like we use Alpha and Omega. So the Omega is the third two, the Alpha is the first two. And if you go to the first two, it is stated that the first two, they were commanded to not to hurt those who had the seal of God. And for me now, if you take that to the third who, the seal of God, the sealing finishes at close of probation. So then the judgment should not occur before the sealing occurs, which leads me, so that one, that's just a question, and it leads me to the second question, which is, now when we expect the judgment of the institutions at the Sunday law, because we say the Sunday law is the close of probation for the institutions, what is the difference between the judgment of the institution and the judgment that comes at the close of probation? So do we see difference in that? Because if there's no difference, then why would we say the institutions are scourged at the Sunday law? And in regard to that, if the scourge at the Sunday law, for example, hurts people, like let's take the case of 2001, the case in 2001, it hurt people. Is the hurt that is directed to people the scourge of the institution? Because the premise, I think, so far is that close of probation is Sunday law is the close of probation for institutions, and the 911 points to the close of probation. So what's the difference between the judgment at the close of probation and the judgment at the Sunday law for institutions and the judgment that comes at close of probation, which is the universal Sunday law? Yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, I have tried to use line upon line to show that we will see symbols of Islam at the Sunday law waymark. And you're saying the judgment comes at close of probation. So yes, I believe we will see the four winds getting loosed at the close of probation waymark. And Ellen White says the four winds are nation against nation, which is also the east wind, but not only. The judgment for the individuals begins at close of probation. but yeah, you asked what is the difference between the judgment for the institution and the judgment for the individuals, because something like 9/11 is also hurting individuals. And yes, that of course it is. But the difference in my understanding is that the individuals, they have still time to repent and to turn and to convert. So they will get the loud cry. They have, however this will look like, but their probation is not over yet. Their judgment comes when they have decided for either side, and when they have passed or not passed their test, and when then Michael stands up and the cup of the Lord's indignation is full and is poured out on the individuals. However this will look like, I don't know, but this is their judgment then. Now at the Sunday law, it cannot be their judgment because their test has not even begun. The test begins at the loud cry, but the test for the institution has already begun in 2021. And will be over at the Sunday law waymark. So when it comes to whom it will hurt, I don't know if I can answer this question. It will always hurt people, individuals as well. But I hope the difference is clear, that it is, it's about, the judgment is about the test, and this only for the individuals is at close of probation, but for the institution is at the Sunday law waymark. So I'm not sure if I answered your question fully, but these are my thoughts.
Oh, okay. Like I was trying to think, when it comes to institutions, institution in my understanding was a kingdom, like 60 kingdom, 50 kingdom. And when we read Ellen White says the judgment for institutions, how it looks like is that what they had, the power, the kingdom, and the dominion that they had is taken away and it is given to another kingdom. So that's how God will judge an institution. Like if you go to Daniel chapter, I think Daniel chapter 3, I think it's Daniel chapter 5, the Bible will say that because of Nebuchadnezzar's sin, Mene Tekel Upharsin is going to occur, which is that kingdom is going to be given to another kingdom. So that's the judgment of institutions or kingdoms. But when it comes to individuals, it looks different. So I thought for me, the judgment for institution will look like God taking that that privilege of the ruling to another dominion. Yeah, but I think I need to think about it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good. These are good thoughts and important to answer. It's the question, for whom is the third woe the scourge? And I think it's not the scourge for the woman, for the king of the north, but the scourge for the army of Rome, which is the institution. And I cannot fully explain who is whom, and I know it's not that easy to distinguish, but I think it's important that we find answers on this question. What is the scourge? Against whom comes the scourge? And because also, as you said, it's nation again, when one nation takes over from the other nation. And this is, we know that also God uses the king of the north as a scourge for God's people, for Israel. But at the same time, the third woe is a scourge for the army of Rome, or for, yeah. So this is complex and complicated, and I think we have to find out more light on this question, which is an important one. Okay, someone else who was next?
Snyder.
Okay, hi everyone. I have 3 questions. They're very quick. I want to begin by saying the studies are very intense. Intense in terms of information, it's pretty much. So I'm trying to grapple with it. And I think the first witness you gave was elections, Elena.
Mhm.
And you mentioned about 2001, 2021, and then you were focusing on January 6th. And then you pointed that to 2025, January 6th. I wanted to understand, how do you consider 2014 as the first Sunday law and maybe 2019 as the second Sunday law? Because I think back in 2018, we were studying about 2014 as a harbinger of the Sunday law of Daniel 1141, which I believe you have said is January 6, 2025. So what considerations do you have in relation to 2014, considering it's not an election year? I know there's a midterm election, but it's not an election year. There's no certification, same as 2019. So that is the first question. And then the second question, in relation to January 6, 2025, which is the Sunday law, how do you understand that in relation to the test of gender equality, knowing that the test, like when we speak about the Sunday law, we also have the image of the beast, the mark of the beast, the sealing, etc. Do you have any light in relation to that? And then the last one, I want just to a clarification and then a question. You were speaking about 2025 expecting an attack from ISIS to the United States. Is that in American soil, like 9/11, what we saw? And what will happen? This is very hypothetical. What will happen if that does not happen by the end of the year? Because I think we have, like, give or take 6 months to the end of the year. I know in 6 months, a lot of things can happen when it comes to prophecy, but just hypothetically, if that attack does not happen in the American soil, then what happens? Especially in relation to your study, because I think you are threading the line of the east wind, the line of the Magi, the line of Jesus as a priest, which is technically the 144,000. So yeah, and the elections, what happens after that? Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so I answer first your last question. So I believe the attack will be on American soil, as was 9/11, because this is what they are aiming for. They want to attack and they want to go into the heart of the enemy, onto their country, and bring the terror into their heart, so to say. So yes, I believe that. And if it does not happen, I really think then my study is wrong. Then somewhere, some point, some detail, whatever, is not correctly applied. Then your other question was regarding the elections of 2014, also how I trace it back to 2014 and 19, which are the other Sunday laws. I think it is all the election itself is not the Sunday law. So it is all the development. We saw how Trump was raising up back then, how the Republican Party, Stephen Miller, Jeff Sessions, Stephen Bannon, how all of this prepared to finally crown him as a dictator. So 2019, we had the impeachment where he already should have prevented from ever running as president again. So I think all those waymarks have special developments that we can pin and that can be traced and being part of the whole story, pointing to when democracy was finally overturned. And therefore, I don't think the election is connected directly to the Sunday law, because the election was 2024, but it is one of the developments that is heading to it. And I think all what happened in those other Sunday law waymarks are a part of the whole story. And then regarding gender equality and the test, I think I hope I already have answered this. It's gender equality is of course the test, and in regards to the institution who had the test before the Sunday law between 2021 Exeter to the Sunday law, it's the test of the institution heading to a close of probation of the institution. How would you apply the equality gender test on the institution? I think it can be only applied by looking at how they are handling democracy, because democracy goes hand in hand with equality. Democracy grants the people to have a vote, equal vote, to not be discriminated. All of this, it goes hand in hand. So we need democracy for equality, and the institution is responsible for upholding democracy, and they failed in that responsibility. So therefore they failed the test of equality. But the individuals, they are tested on equality, but their test is later. Their test is at the loud cry. So therefore, I don't think it's a contradiction, and it is all about equality, definitely.
So let me just get you the last thought. So what you're saying in January 6th, when we see the Democrats not fighting for democracy, it was essentially them not passing, them as an institution not passing the equality test. Is that what you're saying?
I would say this, yeah.
Yeah, January 6th, 2025, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. I'll stop there.
Thank you too.
Boaz?
Hello, Elena, this is Joyce. I want to ask a question from the line of Jesus. You showed that there's an application you made. Okay, to me, it sounded the opposite. The way we initially Elder Tess applied the meaning of the word maximum flood symbolizes destruction. But on that line of Jesus, under the triumphal entry, I heard you mention, if I got you correct, I heard you mention that Mary is a symbol of a maximum flood with that aspect of love. So I didn't get how you connected the maximum flood from being a symbol of destruction to being a symbol of life. I think the opposite.
Okay, yeah.
Other question.
Sorry. Yes, this was just a side note. It was, of course, the flood is the destruction, and it is the Sunday law. I just wanted to mention that we see also that symbol there, because Ellen White says it was over, the love of Mary was overflowing, and this, when I placed it correctly, should happen at the Sunday law waymark, when we show our full love, our overflowing love to Jesus. So it is just another flood, but of course in a positive sense, and it's not to mix it up with the flood in the negative sense at the Sunday law that is destroying, of course, yeah.
So sorry. So sorry, if you are using from that side which you view it, so who was that love destroying? Maybe you are saying it Mary's love overflowing. I still can't get it right.
You mean, sorry, can you repeat the question?
So I'm saying, you're saying that the love of Mary overflows at Sunday Low.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand at Sunday Low we should see that maximum flood as Elder Tess initially used it. It is different from the way you have used it. So this overflowing love of Mary, who is it destroying now?
Why destroying? So the love overflow, the love to Jesus is overflowing, which is positive. It is not destroying. And this is what our experience should be, that we are so close connection to Jesus that our love overflows to the others. It is not destroying. It is healing and bringing salvation. And in contrast, the maximum flood at the Sunday law, which is the Sunday law, this is destroying. But this is our test, to be on the side of the good love and not on the side of the destroying flood. Not,
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Another question. Another question from your studies from Australia. I think you said that it is upon us to test if we are using the methodology correct. And so that is, I think, we are doing. So from the line of the east wind, that line beginning 2021, ending 2025, which you mark to be a Sunday low. So 2021 you mark, which is Boston. At the bottom of that waymark, we see the ISIS attacking the US. That is in Kabul. So at the bottom, you have written attack against the army of Rome. 2022, which is Concord, we see ISIS attack Russian embassy. 2024, which is Exeter, according to you, we see ISIS attack on Russian soil. And lastly, 2025, you said you expect to see an attack on the US soil. So, that line. So, who is this army of Rome? Is it both? Or we don't care who is who, because 2021 we see the attack is on against the army of Rome, but we mark the USA, Kabul airport. 2022 Russian embassy. 2024 Russian soil. So who should the army of Rome be dealing with? If you get me correct.
Yeah, the army of Rome is the USA. And in 2021, it was an attack of the army of Rome against the USA in Afghanistan. And this was the moment when they had their Boston, which means they understood that they have a mission, and that mission was to fight the army of Rome. And they, because it was because the army of Rome, the USA, withdrew from Afghanistan, which was a victory for them. And this strengthened them enormously. So then at their increase of knowledge, they already showed clear ambitions to attack the West. For them, the West is the whole West, which is not only the USA, but all that are allies of the USA. So I don't say that they will attack only the USA, because they call for a global jihad. And then they showed that they are able to attack one of their enemies, which was in this case Russia. and the Russian embassy in Afghanistan. But at the same time, they declared their ambitions to attack the West, which is including the USA. And the USA has always been their main enemy, their main target. And then in 2024, which I would mark as Exeter, they again declared war. They made an official declaration of war against the US, but at the same time also against Russia, Asia, Europe, and many other parts of the world. It's a global jihad. And then they attacked the Russian Russia in Russia, in their country itself. And at the same time, the FBI director and others, they wrote articles, they made announcements and said that it is the threat against the US is imminent. And with the attack against Russia, they have shown that they are able to do those big orchestrated attacks on international ground. And they say, who is next? Next could be the US and other countries. So I think this those attacks on Russia, they were a clear manifestation of their power heading to their final goal, which is an attack against the US on US soil. I hope it makes sense.
Sorry, so I think, okay, according to me, I see inconsistency because there's another line which I think begins from, if I'm not wrong, the time of the end, and in between you've marked 1998, and it was reading, kill Americans and allies. So if it is to kill American and allies, Russia is not an ally of America. That is why I say I see inconsistency, because we should see if, according to you projecting it to be on the American soil, but from the Midnight Cry message, Elder Tess clarified that these wars, much as they may look hot, were dealing with spheres of influence. So I don't know whether you get that question of inconsistency in your methodology. When you take us to the US soil, you take us to Russia, and that article you read was reading that kill Americans and their allies. So, okay, I was expecting maybe your projection should be to an ally of the US. Are you getting my concern?
Yes, but they are at the same time enemy of everyone. So they are enemy of the King of the South and of the King of the North. So their main focus is on the US and their allies. And the allies are Europe and also Israel. So this is their main part. But at the same time, they hate the Russians for different reasons as well. So they are against everyone, and everyone is against them. And I think the fight the fight against the King of the South goes hand in hand with their fight against the King of the North, because in 1989 they fought the King of the South. They defeated the King of the South in Afghanistan, and in this line here as well, they are fighting against the King of the South. But at the same time, they are fighting against the King of the North. And the King of the South is just like a rehearsal for them to do the real attack on the King of the North. So I think it's not a contradiction. It goes hand in hand. And when they attack the King of the South, as they did in 1989, or as they are doing in later against Russia, they are just showing that they are able to fight against a superpower, but at the end they know that it is the army of Rome that has to be defeated, and that is the USA and not Russia.
Okay, thank you. One last question. So under the triumphal entry, which you marked with Sunday law, in that story of Christ you say we mark the world as. So the question was, what? Okay, how do you apply in our line or in our dispensation the us that is loosed? Is it a symbol of Islam or a tool? How do you use it? Thank you.
Yes, it is clearly, I believe, a symbol of Islam, and it serves in this story, in this line, it serves the purpose to bring Jesus to Jerusalem. So it is for the movement. It is something positive, even though, of course, it's a horrible event. But because it is part of prophecy. So as in 2001, it served the purpose to confirm our line upon line methodology. And I think the same purpose is for the Sunday Law Waymark as well. It will confirm our line upon line methodology and gives power to the third and second angel's messages, as it did to the first angel's messages in 2001. So I think it has to be a symbol for Islam, the wild ass. I think we know we used it. It is established in the movement, right? We use this as symbol for Islam. It is loosed. So yes, this is what I would expect, and it would serve a purpose as it is predicted in the prophecies.
So sorry, that is internally you are saying the experience may be horrible. Internally, how do we see it? This symbol of Islam and the us carrying the king. How do we connect that?
Sorry, allow me to jump in. As Elena is answering, because of the time and the number of questions, I request that we try and limit, because it's not very fair to take too much time when there are many other people. So, sorry, continue.
Okay. Sorry, how I connect with as I said, I think for us it's just an external event that is just confirming our line upon line methodology, as was 9/11. So this is just how I connected with our experience. Okay, next question.
Okay, thank you. Deng?
Yes, thank you, Elena. This is a wonderful studies. I really appreciate your time. However, I had a little bit of some questions, as it is sometimes a little harder to juggle with new methodologies or how to align like new understandings, because we had a principle that based on two or more witnesses, they testify or they approve a message. And if I'm to understand what brings Sunday law, it is clearly can be seen in Revelation 13 and in Revelation 17. So, to my first question, what is Sunday law in here? Second, to be more precise because of time, what is the scene that the east wind is going to be a scourge, and which will later on be a test to the people that they will have to choose sides, as you said earlier, at the loud cry. That is number two. And when we look at line upon line, this is where we really anchor our messages and our understanding. And if we go back to threading the Sunday law, if you go to an alpha history, our alpha history of 1850 And 1888, you see the Sunday law in there. However, it was a history of failure, but you see that the Sunday law in there, was there any sign of east wind? And lastly, where is the formation of the image of the beast and the mark of the beast? Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, what is the Sunday law? The Sunday law has to do with a test on equality. So how this looks really very concrete. I think we are also as a movement in the process to find it out. But I think we are all in concord that it is definitely the test on equality. But at the same time, at the Sunday law waymark, we have many different stories and layers that are coming together. So we expect at the Sunday law the death of the King of the South, the fall of democracy. I would expect something with East Wind. We expect something with a law against women, against equality, something what is, all of this. And we expect, and all of this is part of the Sunday law. So then what is the sin at the loud cry? The sin is to go against equality, to not fully have, to not live radical feminism. And the sin of the institution, as I had explained, is to destroy democracy, which in my understanding goes hand in hand with equality. Then we should use line upon line, and you said the first Sunday laws, 1850 and 1888 of our Alpha story, they are not showing East Wind. And yes, this I agree with that, of course, because the second woe was fallen in 1840. So between 1840 and between 2001, there is no woe. So there could not have been any East Wind, any scourge, because neither the second woe was anymore, nor the third woe already began. So I think for that, we take the first woe plus the second woe, which is both a story of failure because the woe at the end fell, and use this as a parable for the third woe, and place this on top of each other, and then find more light to the third woe. So and then the last, I think you had a last point. Can you remind me?
Yes, the last one was in connection to Revelation 13, which talks of the image of the beast and the mark of the beast. From our lines here, like, where do we see this? Because this, to my understanding, they are interconnected with our message of the time of the end, which is Daniel 11, verse 40 to 45. So how do these lines show this entrance of the King of the North, and also the formation of the image and the mark of the beast?
Yeah, I think the image of the beast, the test, as I said, comes at a loud cry. So I think we are, when we are now in the beginning of the Sunday law time, we are at Boston, or we are coming to the increase of knowledge about the test of the image of the beast. So I think I have thoughts on it, but I think we as a movement, we will find it out in short, because we are now in this time period where it is open up to us. And this is about the individuals. So as I always said, I'm trying to make clear that I'm with the institution. I think it's different, because the institution has already their close of probation. So they had their test, but when you talk about the image of the beast, this is about the individuals, about what comes at between the national Sunday law waymark and the worldwide Sunday law waymark. So I think these are two different things.
Okay. To just quote you, I believe it is the institution that gives the power, right? Because if we see in the verse here, or in Revelation 13, I know we have all we have understood it to a degree. So if you see, basically, the image is not formed by the individuals; it is the what? The institution itself. So I just wanted us. That's the thought that I had. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but to my understanding, the Sunday law had to be connected with the image of the beast. An image of the beast is first formed. So I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I also am not able to fully answer those questions. So I think we are really in midst of this process to understand it, and I think it's important, and we will see more in future. So I'm really open to learn more about what it is and how it is placed by whom. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice
day.
Alele Dickens.
All right. Thank you, Elena, for the studies and everyone who have asked their questions. I have a single question, and it's about who gets to be blamed, because after following this, I have had a lot of thoughts. When you see the story that ends with the certification, according to the study we have seen today, it seems the Democrats is to be blamed because they didn't cry out that I'm being direct and literal, that our vote is stolen. But at the same time, also, you're tempted to see that it's the system who are responsible for declaring this. Like in Uganda here, we call it Electoral Commission. I don't know how it's called in US. So specifically, who gets blamed? Is it the Kamala Harris and the Democrats because they're not crying out? They're just keeping silent or going ahead to certify this, or the electoral body that are responsible for saying who won. So that's what I'm struggling with. That's my question. Who gets to be blamed over this issue? Thank you.
Yeah, first of all, I think it's the fault of the Republicans, because the parties are the gatekeeper to keep an extremist out at the first time. So the Republican Party is responsible for bringing Trump up. But then it's the whole system that that had led him through to until the point where he became president. So all of those democratic processes, like the National Convention of the Parties, the RNC, then the election, then the election of the Electoral College, the Electoral College meeting, which was in December, and then the certification. All those processes serve the purpose to prevent any person from office who is not fit for office, who would destroy democracy and go against the Constitution. So all of these processes failed. We had the impeachment. We had two impeachments who served the purpose to prevent that a person that does not comply with democracy is ever able to come to power again. So all of this failed. If we say whom do we blame for it, I think we should. That's why I say the institution. We should blame all. But at the final end, at the certification day, January 6th, is the final day where it could have been stopped. And this was part of the Vice President, Kamala Harris. It's the same as happened in 2021, January 6th. The last hope on the Trump supporters was placed upon Mike Pence because he was the Vice President. He could have decided at the end if he will certify Biden into office or not. Of course, there are legal procedures behind, but it's the last moments where objections by the Senate and Congress and by the Vice President can be made. And Kamala Harris decided to not bring any objection. Neither did the Congress nor the Senate, but to certify him into power. So at the final end, the last moment, January 6th, it was on Kamala Harris. But not only her, of course, but the whole system, all of the processes that were before did not prevent it.
It's okay. Thank you.
Duncan?
Okay. Like I want you to clarify for me, like when the line you have drawn, the line of Christ as a priest, and this line of the line of the east wind. Like when we have this line of the east wind, I see like we can be able to see that is from 2021. Then we have the increase of knowledge in 2022, then Exeter in 2024, then 2025 is the Sunday law. That is that line of the east wind. Then when you showed us that line of Christ as a priest, I see like in 2021 is a minor waymark. Is it a minor waymark or like I want to understand, you clarify for me how these lines are going to agree. Like how are we going to agree these waymarks, the line of the east wind and this line of Christ as a priest? Because I remember like when Elder Test taught us in the line of 144,000, we see like when we come to 2021, it is a formalization. Then once the message has been formalized, the next waymark is the Sunday law. So I don't understand how this line, the line of Jesus as a priest, we have 1989, 2001, 2019, 2021, where you mark the first temple cleansing, you have the Sunday law. So I don't understand how these lines are agreeing with this line of the east wind. Can you please clarify for me to understand?
I will try. So on this line, which is the big line of the 144,000, we have the 5 big waymarks: 89, 2001, Sunday law, close of probation, second coming, and then we have in between the smaller waymarks like those here. And between 2001 and the Sunday law, we have those two. We have 2019 and we have 2021. These are the minor waymarks. So, but in the line of the fractals, we have also in between those small waymarks, which are between 2001 and 2019, it would be 2012 and 2014. And then we have 2016 and 2018. And between 2021 and the Sunday law, we also should have the same pattern, because when we look at the line of the fractals, we have the priests, we have the Nethinims and the Levites. So they should also, to be consistent, they should also be have those two little waymarks in between. So yeah, I think in the line of the in the big line, we have, of course, only those two. But if we zoom in, we also see that we see the same pattern repeated. It is a fractal. It gets smaller and smaller and repeats after the same pattern. So yeah, for the 144,000, there are not these little waymarks in between. But for the priests, for the Nethinims, and for the Levites, there are those little waymarks. I hope this makes sense.
Okay, like what I understand, that is like the smaller waymarks we can zoom in from 2021 to the Sunday law is the line of the Levites. Then the issue of this line of the east wind, I don't know how, like I can see, okay, I'm yet to think about it, but I have a lot of like problems to see how this line, how it's going to fit here with this line of 144,000. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. I think there was one question in the chat. I don't know if it was answered. Otherwise, let me just see what it was saying. Well, I think there's similar questions to what have been asked from, oh, Jerome. Jerome is the same person who. So I think there's pretty much everything has been dealt with. So thank you very much. And yeah, I'll hand it back over to you to wrap it up.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for your good questions. I think I agree that many things needs to further examined and verified, and there are still open things that need to be answered. And so I thank you for being open to listen to my study, to my suggestions. I hope it was beneficial, at least for me it was. So I wish you a blessed Sabbath, remaining Sabbath, and let's close in prayer. Dear God, I thank you that we could study together, that we could discuss, that we could think about those things. I hope that some things might have been answered, some might have not. I hope you help us in further thinking about it and finding solutions, finding agreement on the most important question now in the movement. I ask you for every one of us, bless us in our further studies. Give us your Holy Spirit. I ask you especially for this African group that you bless them richly. And I thank you for your grace and mercy towards us. In Jesus' name, amen.